On est allé lire Judith Butler parce que c'est d'abord quelqu'un qui réfléchit sur l'identité et sur les normes. Et sur une politique des normes qui ne soit pas fondée sur une identité stable, qui ne soit pas fondée sur une identité éternelle, qui ne présuppose pas une identité. Ce que nous fournit l'œuvre de Judith Butler, c'est des instruments pour réfléchir à cette évidence perdue des normes.
I'm lesbian, gay. Yes, I'm lesbian, I'm gay, but do I subscribe to everything the lesbian and gay movement says? Do I always come out as a lesbian and gay person first before, say, I am a woman, or before I am a Jew, or before I am an American, or a citizen, or a philosopher? No, it's not the only identity. So these are communities where one belongs and one does not belong. And it seems to me I travel. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, into a Jewish family, and my parents were very engaged in politics and debate. And I was never very good in school. I was what they call a problem child, a disciplinary problem. And I would speak back to the teachers, and I would not follow the rules. I would skip class. I did terrible things. And yet, I was apparently smart in some way, but I didn't understand myself as smart. I understood myself as strategic. One had to get through, one had to find one's way in the school, in the synagogue. And I didn't really like authority. My mother was called into the principal's office, the principal who runs the school, when I was in 5th grade, I think, at probably the age of 11. And she was warned that I might become a criminal. And at that point, they told me that I couldn't go to the school anymore, to the Jewish education program anymore, unless I studied privately with the rabbi. So this was for me terrific, because I loved the rabbi, and in fact, I skipped the class, my regular Hebrew class, in order to go into the sanctuary to listen to the rabbi speak. And the rabbi spoke about extraordinary things. His name was Daniel Silver, and he wrote a book on Moses. So when I was forced to have a tutorial with him, I was privately very happy. And he asked me what I wanted to study. And he was very suspicious of me because I was this problem child. And I told him I wanted to know why Spinoza was excommunicated from the synagogue. I wanted to know whether German idealist philosophy was linked to the rise of Nazism. And I wanted to understand existential theology. And I was 14 years old. Now, okay, that's sort of my point of view. You could come back with another point of view. But that would be one way of answering the question. You would have to go into both texts and find the relevant passages. And that's your job, and that's something we're hoping you're able to do now by virtue of having passed through this course in the way that you have. If you want to say, I find myself moved by what Rousseau says, that's great. Then you have to say why. So I'm moved because I'm persuaded, because look at the way this is laid out. Because when I read this is what happens, and this is what convinces me, and this is the figure through which it works, and that figure works in the following way. Then I'm moved too. Then show me so I can be moved like you. It was by accident that one of my friends said to me in graduate school, why don't you come give a talk on feminist theory I said, well, I had read feminist theory. I'd read Simone de Beauvoir, which was very important. I had read Gloria Steinem. I had great respect for her. She also loved philosophy. And I was very involved in feminist debates, so I would read popular feminist books. And I wasn't sure what to say, since it was the first time I was asked to say something in an academic feminist context. So I went back to Beauvoir, Le Deuxième Sexe, and there I found this one passage, which is, of course, perhaps the most famous passage from Beauvoir, where she says that one is not born a woman, but rather becomes one. And I wrote something about this problem of becoming, and I wanted to know: does one actually ever become one, or is it that to be a woman is a mode of becoming without end, a mode of becoming that doesn't end, that has no end or goal? And then I thought, well, maybe you could say the same of gender more generally, that one is not born a man, but rather becomes one. Or perhaps one is born a male or female, but becomes something which is neither a man nor a woman. And it seemed to me that this notion of becoming, devenir, could lead to any number of directions. So I started, I suppose, to formulate a thesis that would later become the central argument of gender trouble. What I worry about is are the situations in which gender as a norm is exercised coercively. That is to say, there's a story that came out around, 8 years ago, of a young man who lived in Maine, and he walked down the street of his small town where he had lived his entire life. And he walks with what we call a swish, a kind of, his hips move back and forth in a feminine way. And as he grew older, 14, 15, 16, that swish, that walk, became more pronounced, okay? And it was more dramatically feminine. And he started to be harassed by the boys in the town, and soon 2 or 3 boys stopped his walk. And they fought with him, and they ended up throwing him over a bridge, and they killed him. Okay. So then we have to ask, why would someone be killed for the way they walk? Well, why would that walk be so upsetting to those other boys that they would feel that they must negate this person, they must expunge the trace of this person, they must stop that walk no matter what? They must eradicate the possibility of that person ever walking again. It seems to me that we are talking about an extremely deep panic or fear, an anxiety that pertains to gender norms. And if someone says, you must comply with the norm of masculinity, otherwise you will die, or I kill you now because you do not comply, then we have to start to question what the relation is between complying with